United stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge, and this is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news as INEOS hone in on another striker. A new plan for Manchester United that may well become more clear in relation to what we started talking about last night with Mazraoui, who can play right back and left back. Will this free up funds for Manchester United to go for another striker if they buy only one fullback if Wan-Bissaka goes? How would that work? Well, Wan-Bissaka goes, need a right back, already need a left back, buy a right back who can play left back. You've got Luke Shaw, maybe a miracle happens with Malacia. You buy one fullback instead of two, you buy one midfielder instead of two, and you've got a bit of money to go and get a striker, which could be Ivan Toney, Calvert-Lewin or somebody else. This is what we're talking about this morning. It's the latest Manchester United news. We've also got an update from Erik ten Hag, who for some reason is obsessed with Real Betis. We'll go through some of his comments, but I don't know. You're probably going to give me the answer on why he's obsessed with the Real Betis game and not the Arsenal-Liverpool game. We'll talk about what he's had to say about that in a little bit later on in the show. Also, a massive Frimpong update in relation to him as well, and a few bits around the midfield. Lots to get into on the show this morning. Reagan says, any news on Malacia? Well, in a funny way, actually, we will be talking about him in a way that won't make me fall off my chair. So let's hit the news straight away. I want to talk about Frimpong, actually, a new plan. It appears that Frimpong is still a consideration for Manchester United, but a confusing one at that. His release clause of £34 million, 40 million euros, has now gone. This is being reported by Bild in Germany, and obviously Leverkusen are in Germany. They'd have the info on this. So the 34 million release clause for Frimpong has gone. Has disappeared. So what does that mean? He apparently wants to leave Leverkusen, but he's got another 4 years left on his deal. So why has nobody activated the release clause? And why would you want to wait until after the release clause to start negotiating with Leverkusen, who could ask for 60? There's something weird going on here. And considering Manchester United, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Liverpool and Manchester City are 5 big clubs that have all been interested in Frimpong, why would they all let his release clause lapse when you could just pay it? So I've got a bit of a theory on this. 2, 1, he's just completely and utterly not an option for Manchester United, and we've just not bothered about it. Or 2, everybody feels they'll get a better deal out of Leverkusen without paying the release clause. So I don't know whether there is some technicality here that we're not aware of. Like Absad said, it's a bit strange. He is wanted by a lot of clubs. Liverpool really are looking at him as well. So, I mean, look, honestly, Leverkusen could say we want 60 million now. So why would you have not paid the 34? From a Man United point of view, we would never want to pay the release clause anyway. We would rather say to Leverkusen, in some ways, it might be more positive for us. Because I think Man United would rather say to Leverkusen, we won't give you the 34 million release clause. We'll give you 40 million, but we'll give it you over 5 years. So we'll give you 8 million every year for the next 5, rather than give 34. We've seen United do that already with Xerxes. So, but you'd have to have something in place already, and Leverkusen could, not agree to that. Apparently, Frimpong still wants to leave Leverkusen, and apparently there's still going to be a lot of interest. But the release clause has lapsed. So I don't know. I think maybe we're looking at a world now where release clauses aren't necessarily as good as they used to be, because traditionally a release clause means that you have to pay the whole lot, whereas clubs don't want to pay the whole lot anymore. So I'm starting to see a world where if a release clause is £50 million, a club might rather give another club 60 million if they can spread it out over 5 years. So release clauses might be becoming a thing of the past, because traditionally you do have to pay them all up front. And we obviously paid more than the release clause for Xerxes so that we could pay it over a number of years. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe Leverkusen are open to doing a deal, and that's why everybody ignored the release clause, because they felt they could do a better deal with Leverkusen where they can share the load over a number of years, which is sure what Liverpool would do as well. So it may not be as big as it might have been conceived or perceived, is the word I'm looking for this morning. Frimpong's release clause is dead. It's over. The 34 million release clause is dead. which hasn't actually killed any interest. So he could still be an option for Manchester United or other clubs. So big news around that. But I think also it might lead into something else. I was reading The Athletic this morning. They've got a few updates coming in. One of the biggest updates was that Manchester United still feel there's scope to bring a striker in. Ivan Toney and Calvert-Lewin were mentioned again. Now, I have a bit of a theory around this, and it focuses more around homegrown players. Manchester United can have 17 foreign players at the football club, and you can have as many homegrown players as you like. So I think up to a squad of 25. So you can have 8 homegrown players and 7 foreign players, and any number of under 21s can be in your squad. So you can have a squad of 40 if 15 are under 21. So at the moment, Manchester United's foreign quota would be Onana, Dalot, Malacia, Yoro, Lindelof, Martinez, Casemiro, Ericsson, Bruno, Anthony, Rasmus, Xerxes. Yeah, there's about 12. I've probably missed somebody else out. There's about 12. That gives you 5 signings. So, we're fine when it comes to foreign quotas. Homegrown is a little bit short. Rashford, Sancho might leave, Mount, McTominay, Maguire, Shaw, Wan-Bissaka's probably going to go, Heaton. Yeah, look, to be honest with you, I feel that we've got quite a lot of scope either way. But it looks like Manchester United, if we're going to bring a striker in, it's probably going to be... Garnacho is nothing at the moment. He's not. Mainu's nothing at the moment. You don't bloody listen, do you? You don't. Some of you just don't listen. You start typing instead of listening. I used to do this at school. I'd put my answer up and say Nigeria, and I hadn't listened to the question. And the question was, name a country that is in Australasia, and I'd go Nigeria because I just wanted to be right first. And you're the same. Like, you don't listen. Like, what did I literally just say? If you're under 21, you're not homegrown and you're not foreign. We can have as many as those as we want. Doesn't matter if you're under 21. So Garnacho is under 21 and would be classed as homegrown anyway when he's over 21, and the same with Kobe Mainu. People laughing about Nigeria. I thought I had these powers as a kid where I could guess the answer without knowing what the full question was. Anyway, so look, both strikers that we've been linked to by The Athletic are Ivan Toney and Calvert-Lewin. Not for the first time. I mean, this literally was something we were talking about a couple of weeks ago. So they're saying that there is scope for Manchester United to buy a striker, and Calvert-Lewin and Ivan Toney have been mentioned again. I mean, look, I am terrified by the thought of Calvert-Lewin. I mean, he is just everything I don't want in a Man United player. I'm sorry. I mean, he's on the cover of GQ quite regularly. Well, I mean, I've seen him once. He's injured a lot. He's nowhere near the England team. He's cheap. I just do not want Calvert-Lewin at Manchester United. Absolutely no way, Nora. Never. I just think he's absolutely everything I don't want in a Manchester United player. So, but we keep getting linked to Calvert-Lewin. And obviously Ten Hag and Man United are admirers of Calvert-Lewin. So if we get him, we'll have to back him. But I personally just don't want anything to do with Calvert-Lewin at Manchester United. I mean, it's just... We've done these types of Weghorst, Igalo signings before, and they're not a diamond in the rough. They're a shit on the local park. That's what they are. Let's call it what it is. As for Ivan Toney, look, that to me would be a very interesting deal. The price is coming down. I literally said yesterday, look, I don't know whether anyone's listened to the podcast, Goldbridge Saves Football. It's new out, but I said on the podcast yesterday, this is the worst transfer window ever, unless you're a Man United fan. But I used Ivan Toney as an example. You can tell something's gone wrong with the transfer window this summer. For us, it's fine, but for everybody else, no one's doing any business. And I think the Premier League have squeezed with FFP too much. Like they've actually... It's a bit like adding time on at the end of games. It's a bit like VAR. It's a bit like, you know, all the bad things that these people in power keep doing to football to dilute its quality. You know, there's so many changes happening around football that are making the game worse and adding time on, too many games, too many injuries, crap VAR. The game is getting worse. And I think with FFP, that, again, look, I used to run home from school, put teletext on, page 312. Obviously, I wanted Man United to be there, but I'd be excited if I saw Blackburn were signing, you know, Kevin Gallagher from Coventry or something like that. You know, I just love transfer window, and it's crap. Beyond the United stand, it's absolutely crap. And I think Ivan Toney, and I get into this more in the podcast, please do give it a listen on Spotify, but I think that with regards to Ivan Toney, he is literally the symbol of why the transfer window is so shit. He is a Premier League proven striker who scores goals in the Premier League. You know, he'll score you 15 to 20 goals in the Premier League for Brentford. You put him up front for Arsenal, Man United, Chelsea, Spurs, 20 goals guaranteed in the Premier League. I mean, Isaac and Watkins are worth £100 million because they'll get you 20 goals in the Premier League. Brentford can't get 50 for Ivan Toney. It's crazy. It's crazy. All right, he had a betting ban. All right, he might have a bit of an attitude. But Sheringham and Cole didn't get on at Man United. You know, we've got players in our dress. I mean, Man United can't sit there and go, we don't want Ivan Toney, he's got a bad attitude. Like our dressing room is full of, you know, saints. I mean, we've got players with problems as well, so that will still be in a shirt next year. So, and I'm not just talking about Man United. I mean, come on. Why is Ivan Toney not getting bought for £50 million? It's crazy. So I don't think Man United will sign Toney, but I did say this yesterday, and it does make a lot of sense. It's worth just hanging around. It's worth just putting your hand up and saying, we are interested. And then Brentford go, are you going to make a bid? And you go, no, because we've got other priorities, but we are interested. If anything happens, let us know. Because the closer you get to the end of August, the more there might be a bargain. And if Toney's price comes down to, say, 40 million, and you say to Brentford, we'll buy him for 40 million and we'll give you 10 million every year for the next 4. I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's a literal no-brainer. Like, if he comes to Man United, sits on the bench for 2 years, scores 15 goals, you'd sell him at 29 for 35 million because he's played for Man United in the Europa League. So, you know, it's a no-brainer at 40 million. And I think that's what Man United are looking at. There's scope to bring a striker in. But I think, you know, Beth would love Ivan Toney to be playing up front for Man United. Some of you would. But I look at it and I go, it's getting closer and closer to becoming a deal that makes a lot of sense. I remember Man United years ago buying Dion Dublin from Cambridge. And everyone was like, what are we doing there? And, you know, he came to Man United and he actually ended up having a good career elsewhere. And I think with Ivan Toney, you could bring him in for 40 million and I think within a couple of years, even if it didn't work out, you'd get most of that money back because he's Premier League proven before he comes here. And then he gets, you know, he becomes a player that's played for Manchester United. So I'm not saying it's going to happen, but the longer nobody goes in and does a deal for Toney, the more I think Man United look at that and go, homegrown player, Premier League goal scorer, offers us something different. It might be worth having a look at. And I certainly do not think we'll do it. But I think it's becoming closer to an option that, look, the way transfer fees are working as well, I think Brentford thought they'd get 60 million in their pocket. They'll do well to get 50 and it'll be spread out in instalments. So let's see what happens. And also, it goes back to what I was talking about at the start of the show. I think there might be a bit of a new plan with Manchester United because if Wan-Bissaka goes, which we expect, and we do need to buy a left-back, then if you buy a right-back who can play as a left-back, Khalid, what's his name? Kadioglu, Mazrui. Then suddenly you get a 2-for-1, which saves you 20 million quid, which added to maybe 20 million you've got in reserve, gives you 40 million to go and do a striker. So, especially if you don't buy a second midfielder. So, I think Man United might have a bit of a new plan going on here because the right backs that we've been linked to, like Mazrui, and the left back, Kadioglu, they can both play left back and right back, and maybe that's something Man United might do to free up funds to do something in a more attacking sense, because we're certainly being linked to Tony and Calvert-Lewin a lot. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. Queen says, I can't wait to see everyone this Saturday in LA and San Diego. Will the United Stand team be there as well? Continue your good work, Mark, says Queen. We are going to be in the States. I won't be there, unfortunately, because I've got my book coming out and I've got a load of stuff I've got to do for that next week. But we will be in the States doing some stuff, yes. We can spend because we are commercially and economically the biggest club. Sometimes we forget that, says Harvey. FFP still does exist, Harvey. I think Tony is great as a footballer, but what if he has more betting scandals in his locker, says Tusha. I don't think he would. He's just played for England. I don't think that would happen. Solid Blake, welcome to the Members Club. Morning, Mark. Why are we still looking at strikers? Isn't there other positions we should be looking at? And can you say hi to my mum, Amanda? Hi to your mum, Amanda, delusional unicorn. That reminds me as well. Let me just... why does my phone work absolutely brilliantly all day, and then on a time I need it to work well, it just starts slow loading? Okay, just want to say happy birthday to Jack this morning. 16 today. Happy birthday to Jack. I would love to tell you who the message came in from. I could tell you, but I don't know whether they'd be happy about it. They probably would. Manchester United fan page, more MUFC on Instagram sent us that message. My nephew is Jack. He's 16 today. Massive United Stand fan. He's obsessed with it. Could you give him a shout out? So happy birthday to Jack, who's 16 today. I was going to say you maybe be in school, but you might not. Well, actually, you won't. It's July. Well done. So welcome. Is Malacia in the French squad for the Olympics? Andrew, you should be a comedian, mate, with that sort of stuff. Brilliant. What do you think of Matty Cash as a homegrown right back, says Code Kane? I've not heard us be linked to him at all. Is this just name right backs that are homegrown? Walker Peters, Kyle Walker, Ben White. I've not heard of that. School's out. I hate that song, Mark Sills, but you made me want to say it. Ricky Marino says, if Tony joins, I'm okay with the problems that might come with him. Also, we might be able to play with two strikers once again. We won't be playing with two strikers once again, Ricky. Those days are gone. Front twos, I think, are gone unless you're in the last 20 minutes. Matty Cash is Polish, Amir, but of course he would be homegrown because he's played in the... he will have been part of a English club for 3 years before his 21st birthday, I would have thought, so he would be homegrown. You don't have to be English to be homegrown. Good morning, Mark. I've watched Frimpong and I don't rate him. Just my opinion, Marcus. You know what? I feel like that sort of message, you're walking out the door, Marcus. It's sort of like go, good morning, Mark. I've watched Frimpong. I don't rate him. See you later. Slams the door. Brilliant. What I wanted to say is about the homegrown thing, just very quickly, because we have got some news around the midfield stuff as well. Nicholas says, hope all is well, Mark, and everyone in the chat. I got married a couple of weeks ago, and my wife has to listen to all of the streams I watch live. Fantastic. Well, I hope first 2 weeks, I hope it's still good. And big congratulations to you, Nicholas, and your wife. Talking about homegrown, also in The Athletic, it mentions that Man United are open to offers for Lindelof, but with Scott McTominay, he's seen as part of their plans, and it would take a big offer for United to want to sell him. I don't know whether that's United flirting with Scott McTominay's potential suitors to try and get as much money as they can when they do want to sell him, and I hope that is the case. But I do think if you've got a British passport, you're a protected species at Manchester United. And I don't necessarily understand why. As I said, you're allowed 17 foreign players. And from what I can figure out, we've got about 5 spots now. So even if you've got Ugarte, Frimpong, Simmons, De Ligt and Mazraoui, you'd still be okay. And that's not discounting that you might remove another foreign player. So we've got a lot of spaces in our 17 quota for foreign players. We're absolutely fine. In the homegrown side, well, you know, at the end of the day, we shouldn't keep players just because they've got a British passport. And we shouldn't sign players just because they've got a British passport. We should sign and promote good talent. And it's interesting how we keep hearing about Lindelof, who would be another foreign player gone, creating another spot on the foreign side, and yet we're not hearing anything about Maguire. And I get the feeling that with Maguire, he's the sort of guy that wants to play, but hasn't made his mind up. So I don't think he's knocking on the door. And if he's knocking on the door, I don't think Man United are trying to do anything about it either. And I think that will ultimately be a mistake for Maguire unless we have an injury crisis again, because I don't see him getting anywhere near the first team this year. And that means his England career is over. But I think Man United might be just open to keeping him because he's homegrown. What about Chalobah news, says Tade. Look, we've been interested in Chalobah before. Homegrown player. I would look at that. I would look at Chalobah because I wouldn't take him over De Ligt in any way, shape or form, but I'd get De Ligt and Chalobah because that's a homegrown player, and you'd have Chalobah, De Ligt, Yoro, Martinez, and Johnny Evans. I think that would be very, very good for us. But keeping someone like Scott McTominay or Harry Maguire or signing Calvert-Lewin just because they're homegrown is a mistake. Like, we should be looking at homegrown players, but we should be looking at homegrown players that actually improve us, not that keep a quota. And I think at the moment, Man United obviously pushing Lindelof out the door, but I think Maguire at the moment is low priority to move on because he's homegrown. And it might need Maguire to realise what's going on, because I think if Maguire was Swedish, he'd be gone. I think we're looking to keep him at the moment because we're looking at other options. RP says, I like the idea of Chalobah and he can play at right back as well. I think as a fourth choice centre back, as a replacement for Maguire, it would be very, very clever for Manchester United to do it. I wouldn't be using it. I wouldn't be signing him instead of De Ligt. No way. But yeah, look, obviously if you brought Ivan Toney in, he'd be homegrown as well. So I just think we've got to be very wary of the homegrown scenario at United, because I don't want to see us keeping players like McTominay and Maguire and signing Calvert-Lewin just because they've got a British passport, because I think that will create more problems. You're diluting the quality of the squad because somebody's got a British passport. If we're going to buy the likes of Xerxes and Yoro, who are, you know, talented players for the future, don't dilute that talent by bringing in Calvert-Lewin because he's got a British passport. I don't want to see us doing that. How much would Villa sell Konza for, says Lazy Parker? Silly money, you know. They would be saying the same thing as what Everton are saying and what Crystal Palace are saying. Inactivity by other clubs could hurt us if we need to sell to buy. FFP is hurting clubs indirectly at this point. The rules need adjusting, says Andres. Well, I spoke about this on the podcast, and I think you're absolutely correct. There is something fundamentally wrong with the transfer window at the moment. A lot of people thought when June the 30th hit, the new financial year would start making people spend money, but it's not. There is no real change at the moment, and I think that is something that is a massive concern because, you know, I've got to be honest. You can scan the QR code and listen to the podcast. By the way, I'll whack that in now. I think when Man City were buying people like Haaland, it makes the league better. It makes you have to be better. I think it's stagnation. If the Premier League transfer market continues like this until August the 31st, it's a stagnation of the league. You know, what new players have Arsenal brought in? What new players have Liverpool brought in? We may as well be last season again. The whole point of a new season is you're like, oh my God, they've bought that, they've bought that. We're doing a lot of business, and that's why a lot of rivals are jealous of us at the moment, because we're doing a lot of business, but other clubs are not doing business, and the Premier League needs to take a look at itself, really. Sangeet says, buy Richard Rios. Well, let's talk about the midfield, because an update also in The Athletic came in. I want to talk about these Ten Hag comments as well, and Fabrizio's given us a Bruno update overnight. In relation to the midfield, The Athletic are saying that Manchester United... So the summary of what they basically said in that article is that Man United are open to offers for Lindelof, who we think will go. McTominay they want to keep, but if big offers come in, they might consider it. There's scope for a striker, and Calvert-Lewin and Toney were mentioned. But in relation to the midfield, I'm really tired at the moment. It's not you lot boring me. You might have seen the cameo from the puppy a couple of days ago. Literally wakes up at 2 o'clock every morning for a piss and... yaps. So I was out in the garden at 2 o'clock this morning in the pissing rain, trying to get a puppy to understand that the rain wouldn't stop for it to have a piss. So you need to get wet and have a piss. And it took about 20 minutes. So tired bridge. But the show will always go on. We're not used to not. It's not like we're not used to being tired. So Savage says, I know the feeling. But look, let's talk about the midfield update in the Athletic is this. Rabiot has been admired by Man United for a long time, but nothing is advanced right now, which for me, I think with Rabiot, we need to just park that. Unless United are going to hijack late, he's been out of contract for 3 weeks. That's amazing, isn't it? Rabiot's been a free agent for 3 weeks. So that's a bit... I remember with Eriksen, he was a free agent for about 10 days and he signed for us. But Rabiot's been a free agent since the 1st of July. His contract with Juventus ran out then. So if Man United are admirers of Rabiot, but we've not done anything about it, we're not doing anything about it. Like, we're not going to sign Rabiot. He's been free for 3 weeks. So I think Rabiot we can park. It also goes on to mention that Manchester United are admirers of Zubimendi and Amrabat, who are both considerations and options in their midfield quest. I just worry a little bit about the midfield at the moment because Agate has to come in. It almost feels like with Manchester United, Agate is a done deal, but we've got to be very, very careful about that deal's not been done yet. And we have pivoted before away from deals we thought we were going to do. So I like the idea of Zubimendi. And if, look, I want Agate. If we didn't get Agate and we got Zubimendi, I don't think it would be the end of the world. But if we don't get Agate and we don't get Zubimendi and we sign Amrabat, that terrifies me. I mean, Kevin Good says sign Amrabat, he's a great backup. I suppose if I explain it in simple terms, Kevin, Mainu, Mount, Bruno, McTominay stays, Casemiro stays, you sign Amrabat. That's what worries me. It's basically the midfield of last year. So I don't mind Amrabat coming in with Agate. I don't mind Amrabat coming in with Zubimendi, but I don't want Amrabat to be the Agate or Zubimendi and Casemiro, McTominay stay. What I want to see is Mainu, Bruno, Mount, Agate, Amrabat, Collier, and Eriksen, McTominay and Casemiro go. But if we're not selling McTominay and we can't sell Casemiro, we might only bring in one midfielder, and that one midfielder might be Amrabat. So that's my only concern at the moment. People are talking like we'll get Agate and Amrabat, or we'll get Zubimendi and Amrabat, or we'll get Zubimendi and Fofana. What if we're only going to get one midfielder? In which case, I think I have to just say this here. I don't want Amrabat. I'm not going to get excited about us being in for Amrabat, because if Amrabat's the midfielder, I'm going to shit myself. Like that is not a solution at all. Amrabat and Agate, fine. Amrabat and no Agate and no other midfielder, oh my god, that would absolutely terrify me. That midfield would be not good enough. Valor says, what's going on with Shoretire? Is he good enough? He's gone, mate. Not heard about him for ages. Left, free transfer, out of contract, whatever. Jay's Aquatics, thank you very much. Obviously, we wish him all the best, but I think he was released at the end of his contract. Never really kicked on Shoretire, did he? I remember him coming on and did a long time ago. Did he play under Ollie? I just don't think ultimately he was actually good enough, was he? I suppose. Hopefully he'll find a career at a championship club or something like that. But I don't think he ever really got anywhere near a Ten Hag first team, did he? I think he was there under Solskjaer. Shaw means that the Deadwood cannot trade us, says Simon. And are there any homegrown midfielders under the age of 25 who are good and available, says Nicholas? Well, I think this is what part of the reason we bought Mason Mount. Do you think Lenny Oro will go to the Olympics, says Ra? I won't even read those anymore. I mean, it's just... I don't think it was even funny last week. Have you heard anything of Richard Rios, the Colombian centre midfielder? Apparently we're linked to him. We literally did a show on it yesterday, Alex. The morning show yesterday. Fabrizio spoke about it yesterday lunchtime and said there's no truth in it. How much would Villa... We've done that one as well. Let me talk about Romano, who was on the show yesterday. Yesterday, he was asked by Beth about Bruno Fernandes and basically said no news on Bruno leaving Manchester United, but potential talks when he's back next week to talk about a new contract, whether he'll get that or not or no. There was a story last night, I think, in The Sun that PSG want Bruno. Fabrizio has said overnight, no truth in that. PSG are not looking at Bruno Fernandes. Their focus is João Neves and a winger and a striker. They're not looking at Bruno Fernandes, so there's no truth in that. So I think with Bruno, if Bruno was to leave Manchester United, there would only be one destination, and that would be Saudi Arabia, because it's so much money. And I don't think Bruno Fernandes wants to go to Saudi Arabia at the moment. So I don't see anything going on with that. Benny said, would you be happy with Richard, Rios and Ugarte? I would, but according to Fabrizio, there's nothing going on with Rios. So I don't think, I think that's just a Brazilian story, probably being taken out of context using Manchester United again. Acid23 says, I've just pre-ordered the book and I love the podcast from yesterday. Well, you're my kind of person, Acid23. Any chances more Cooking with Goldbridge, my favourite content away from the United Stand? Mate, you just hit the hat trick. You've pre-ordered the book, which makes you a legend in my book. Links in the description. You're listening to the podcast, which came out yesterday, which you can do by scanning the QR code. And you've just asked for more Cooking with Goldbridge, which I haven't done one in the new kitchen I've had for nearly 2 years. I've not done a Cooking with Goldbridge for 2 years. I've never done a Cooking with Goldbridge in this kitchen. I've been working on some stuff to do a Cooking with Goldbridge, whether it's a one-off. So very well timed, Acid23. Patrick Lynch says, midfield was a big issue last season. Amrabat plus one more is fine, but not Amrabat alone. Exactly. Otherwise, very little will have changed from last season. And I think Patrick probably puts it better than me, yet again. If our midfield six was Casemiro, Amrabat, McTominay, Mainu, Mount and Bruno, you have got 6 players, but the balance is shit. Casemiro fell off, the only proper number 6 we've got. Amrabat is really a backup. McTominay is really a 10. Mount is a 10 that could be an 8 but might not stay fit. Mainu can play as a 6 but is really an 8, and Bruno is a 10. The balance is just all over the place. What you want is 2 6s, 2 8s and 2 10s. And if some of those 8s can play as a 10 and some of them 8s can play as a 6 and some of them 6s can play as an 8, happy days. But the balance of that 6 would be horrific. Robert McCormack says, I make it. We've got 16. Obviously a couple will leave though, says Robert. Well, you should have wrote the bloody list out, Robert. Like I've got about 13, 14 foreign players with 3 or 4 gaps, but more will leave. Effectively, the way I've got it is from this point, we could sign Gutierrez, De Ligt, Ugarte, and I reckon we can sign 4 or 5 foreign players from this point and be absolutely fine. Are you doing watch-alongs for early morning games, says Andres. Does a bear shit in the woods? I feel offended that you need to ask me this. We've been doing... Well, for one, we've been doing watch-alongs before anybody else ever did them for Manchester United. There seems to be about 100 now. And for 2, I think we were the first people to ever do watch-alongs for pre-season games at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I love doing them because I love watching Man United in pre-season. But I also think it's a homage to the worldwide fans, some of you will be watching now, who, when we are fortunate enough in the UK to be watching a game at 12:30 lunchtime or 8 o'clock at night, or 5:30, you're watching it at 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning. So I actually quite like the novelty of getting up at 3 or 1 in the morning to watch a Man United pre-season game when it's a good time for a lot of you. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, which is actually really interesting. Just to swerve off something for a moment. I don't know whether you saw these comments about that Eric Ten Hag has made. Really interesting, and I don't know whether I missed something. So you're going to be my investigators here, because I don't have the answer to everything. Some people would say I don't have the answer to a lot, but basically, I want to go through some stuff here. But this is a Ten Hag interview that's come out from Manchester United, right? There is no reference from what I can see in relation to playing Arsenal on Saturday or Liverpool the following Saturday. So he's gone all in on Betis. And now what we're doing for the pre-season, I'm getting excited saying this, pre-season tour, right? Saturday night, well, I say Saturday night, you'll say Sunday morning. Saturday night, 1 o'clock in the morning, which is Sunday morning, we play Arsenal. Wednesday, 3 o'clock in the morning, so Tuesday night, we play Betis. And then the following Saturday, 1 o'clock in the morning, so Sunday, we play Liverpool. But Ten Hag has homed in on the Betis game, and he said, Betis is a very impressive opponent. They will always play in a high level. We faced them in the Europa League 2 years ago, and we know what we can expect from their manager. They have good players, but also we will have a lineup, a strong team. We will line up senior players so that we have a strong team to win that game. We have to get that mentality in versus Betis, because at that point, we don't have so much time to go into a final. We've got to prepare for the Community Shield. We have to be more competitive at this stage against Betis. That's what we can expect from every individual player, but also as a team. And we have to make progress by that time. So he's absolutely just gone in on the Betis game. And I don't really get it, if I'm being honest, because we've got Arsenal on... Van Plague says the answer's Nigeria. Great. That's the comedy I'm looking for. That's the depth of comedy I'm looking for. That not is Yoro in the Olympic squad. The answer is Nigeria. If you know, you know. That actually was clever. But I think with regards to what Ten Hag is saying, I know we've got Arsenal at the weekend and he'll probably do half and half. What he's actually saying is for the Betis game, he's going to go strong. But why is the Betis game more important than the Liverpool game, which is a week before we play Man City? So what I think he's going to do is he trying to wind Betis up so that Betis put a strong team out so he gets a good game? Does he know that Arsenal and Liverpool are going to play squad games because they're missing players? Have Betis got most of their players available because they didn't play in the Euros? Is his plan to sort of like use the squad against Arsenal, use the squad against Liverpool because they're bigger games where there'll be more fans in the ground, whereas Betis, he can use it as a proper pre-season game? I think it's quite interesting. That's my theory, but I think that's what he's sort of talking about, isn't he? He's trying to make that Betis game the game where he takes it the most seriously. And I don't really have much of a theory other than he's gonna play a strong team and he's trying to coax Betis into doing the same. Karsh says, someone mentioned it earlier, maybe it's to hype up the game being played in the new Snapdragon Stadium. Yeah, I mean, I don't like the idea of it. I don't like the idea of it being PR. I don't like the idea of it being PR just to sell tickets, but you know, maybe it is. Interestingly, just on the tour, Bruno and Dalot and Mainu and Shaw and Garnacho and Martinez not going to be on the tour. The latest we've got with them is they're certainly not going to be there flying out in a couple of days, and the tour is only a week and a bit, so they will link up with Manchester United back at Carrington. What I was told yesterday is that there is a possibility that Bruno and Dalot and Mainu and Shaw might go back to Carrington end of next week and start their individual training tests, because if you remember the first day, everyone was back in training a few weeks ago. You have that first day at Carrington where they're doing all the jump tests and everything like that. So there is a chance that those players will go back and do all of that back end of next week, but there's no requirement for them to go on the tour. So, yeah, there we go. Red Devils United says it's just because we're playing in the Snapdragon Stadium, which is our new sponsor now. Next season, would you take 5th place and win the Europa? Says Alex. No, I don't think the Europa's that important. I think finishing higher in your domestic league is more important than winning the Europa League. It'd be nice to win the trophy, but you know, I think this year it really is. I would say for me, top 4 in a trophy is what I'm hoping for this year, but the precedent has to be to finish high in your domestic league. if you finish 5th, then who's finishing above us? Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, and who? Spurs, Villa, Newcastle, Chelsea. I don't think that's acceptable. 5th place is the Champions League, though, says Pavin. Well, it wasn't last year, mate. No, I think we've got to finish in the top 4 this year. I think that has to be the priority, to show our quality in the domestic league, in the best league in the world. I think we've got to show that this year. Toad Kane says, maybe because some players just back to get yet to gain fitness, he would be looking at growth curves, and 3 pre-season games in might be projected peak. Good point. Walter Ten Hag White says, love your show, Mark. I am in danger. I am the danger, sorry. Hi, Mark. Xerxes is playing the Olympics for Uganda, says Anthony. I give Collier he's winding everybody up, by the way, Anthony is. I give Collier a chance instead of buying Amrabat, says Dejan. I think Collier would still be part of my 6 anyway. Next season, would you have done that one? And Patrick Lynch says, maybe he believes that Betis play the most like City of those 3 teams. And big season for Onana. Vitek looks good, says Harvey. And Darsh says, watching the treble documentary on MUTV had tears in my eyes. Love from India, says Darsh. Thank you very much for that. Thanks for all the super chats. A very, very harsh super chat coming in here from United 1. Get your teeth round this, everybody. And what are your thoughts on it? I would say harsh are my thoughts, as I just said, and I repeat back to you. Coming in from United 1, Shaw is a joke at this point and needs selling. I feel like I need a little bit more on that. If I'm being completely honest, I do feel like I need a little bit more to understand what your point is. I mean, I could start guessing, but guessing's not really the way forward, is it? Luke Shaw prioritised England. Slow Sports News. But Luke Shaw is fit. And when Luke Shaw is fit, he is, I believe, one of the best left-backs in the world. If Luke Shaw gets injured in the first couple of weeks of the season, then obviously he's going to have a lot of questions to answer. But he did prioritise England. We know that. He now needs to prioritise Man United. So I like Luke Shaw. I think he's one of the best left-backs in the world. He's now got to stay fit for Man United. He can't be dropping out for 6 weeks with an injury at the end of August. But we do need to buy a left-back as well. But I think Luke Shaw, it's time to show what you're all about for Man United now. And we can't sell him. No one will buy him. I find it funny, actually, that people talk about selling Luke Shaw or selling Bruno Fernandes or selling Marcus Rashford. You've got to have somebody willing to buy. Nobody wants to buy Luke Shaw at that price, at that wage, at that age. Doesn't mean he's not a bad player, but, you could have a left-back who isn't as good as Luke Shaw that people want to buy because his wages are cheaper and his price is cheaper. So he's more obtainable. Luke Shaw's a good player, but no one's going to buy him because they're not going to pay that wage and that price for somebody who's injury prone. Nobody wants to buy Luke Shaw at the price we want to sell. And been saying this for weeks. Like, PSG apparently have been interested in Rashford. They're going for Jadon Sancho. So, look at the pecking order here. You've got Jadon Sancho, Mason Greenwood and Marcus Rashford, right? Mason Greenwood had 3 or 4 clubs that wanted to buy him. So Greenwood had people who wanted him. Sancho had a little bit of interest from Dortmund and Juventus, and now PSG. Rashford's got no interest. Nobody is asking to buy Marcus Rashford, apart from Saudi Arabia. But, Saudi Arabia will buy any half-decent player. So, why is that? Is that because Greenwood's better than Sancho and Rashford? Well, probably. Is it because Sancho's better than Rashford? I think that's debatable. No one wants to buy Rashford because his price is ridiculous and his wages are ridiculous. So, nobody will buy him. So, anybody who says, let's sell Luke Shaw, you've got to get your head in the real world. Some of these players are not sellable because of the wage we've given in the past and the contract they're on and the salary and the fee that we would want. We can't sell. You can't get blood from a stone and you can't sell some of these players. So I think that's always very important. Which wingers start against Fulham, says Harvey. I think we both know it will be Garnacho and Rashford. Sancho will be better with Rasmus, says Dorian. He won't be with Rasmus. And what a day it would be in football if Man City gets relegated, says Hyan. And Glenn C says he could just feel like he knows all about Arsenal and Liverpool, so doesn't feel like he will learn anything new against those two when he's talking about Betis, says Glenn C. Good point. Thank you very much. There's a bit of an update come in here that's been sent to me. I just want to read it out fresh. Brian Brobby, it's from Plettigol again. Brian Brobby could leave Ajax this summer. 22-year-old has received many inquiries. Roma are monitoring his situation, but Brobby is also keen to play in the Premier League. Has a contract until 2027. His price valuation is 25 to 30 million euros. That doesn't mention Man United. That doesn't mention Man United. The reason we brought it in, and it's been sent to me by our social media guy, Matt, is because we have been linked to Brobby in the past. So, yeah. But I don't think we'll go anywhere near Brobby because I think if we're going to go for a striker, we're clearly looking at a homegrown player. So, yeah, I don't think we will go anywhere near Brobby, but it's probably worth just throwing that name in as a potential to get linked to us at some point in the next 10 minutes because we know that we've been linking with Brobby before, so it won't take that long. I'm just having a quick look around. We've spoken about... God, that's slow sports news. This is what I mean. This is what I mean, though, right? I'm just looking at this. Man United have added Zubimendi to their listed midfield targets. He has a £50 million release clause, right? Guess where that's come from? It's not come from what... I mean, we've been talking about Zubimendi for 5 days now. 5 days we've been talking about Zubimendi, and now you've got a story coming out that Man United have added Zubimendi to their list from TalkSport, that one's from. So this is what I mean about this summer. The regurgitation of news that people claim as their own is hilarious. And that's why, I love doing this anyway, but, you know, I love doing a news show every day because you actually go and get the news from, you know, outlets who are breaking the news. But I don't know how they get away with it. It must be news for thick people who just will be hearing that for the first time. They must be playing on thick people who don't actually follow football that might just hear it out. But I don't know. But look, I thought that was going to be something breaking, but we've been talking about that for days. Right. I did just want to have a bit of a summary at the end. So where we are at Manchester United, a lot of those stories today, let's be honest, are early stories, may not go anywhere, development stories, just stories. Where are we actually? Because it's Tuesday night, and I did say at the weekend I expected a here we go for Ugarte by tomorrow. It does feel like at the moment Man United are sort of locked in on negotiations. Bit of a deadlock, bit of a backlog, bit of a domino effect when certain things happen. It doesn't feel like Ugarte at the moment is getting any closer than where it was on Saturday. We know we've had the conversations. We know PSG want more than we want to pay. We know PSG have spoken to Jadon Sancho. We know PSG want to get João Neves. It feels like at the moment there's a lot of moving parts and it could come together very, very, very quickly, but it doesn't feel like anything's moving massively more than it was at the weekend. That doesn't mean it won't happen in the next 24 hours, but it does just feel a little bit like, you know, we're waiting for something. I also agree that that's probably the case with De Ligt as well. And again, it doesn't feel like we're getting to a point of here we go anytime soon. I suppose the question is, what do you think Man United are going to do next? There doesn't appear to be any sale that's happening. To be honest, I think the start to the week, it's only Tuesday morning, so let's just take a chill pill. But it does seem a little bit at the moment like there was a bit of momentum last week and we're just waiting for that momentum story this week, which I feel like we're probably a few hours or 24 hours away from something that's just going to kickstart, because there's no way under this new regime that they want weeks to just pass without anything happening. And look at last week. Greenwood did go to Marseille. We did get the Lenny Yoro deal done. So I feel this week, it's only Tuesday morning. we're not gonna end the week without anything done. But at the moment, I think it's just I agree with Savage. We're still very busy. It's just I think we're getting locked into a few moving parts at the moment where, you know, that Euro deal happened very quickly, didn't it? I mean, I didn't expect that Euro deal to happen as quick as it did. So things can change massively quickly. But what I'm saying is I'm not concerned that we're going to go through a week with nothing happening. I think that I don't necessarily think we're going to see players going. I had hopes there'd be a couple of players not going on the tour that need to be sold, but I fully expect to see Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, McTominay, Casemiro getting on the plane. I don't think they're going to have a Mr. T moment. I ain't getting on no plane. I want to go to West Ham. I don't see that, which means that those deals won't get done until August now. But it's incomings that matter in relation to Fulham, and the more incomings that happen, the more outgoings have to happen anyway, because we can't just keep buying players. Are you going to watch the swimming pool movie with Ben Foster's mate in, says Glenn C. I feel like you're talking another language to me there, Glenn. Got no idea what that's all about. Oh, the swimming pool movie, Deadpool, with Ben Foster. I've never watched it, mate. I haven't. I watched Bullet Train at the weekend. He was in that, a cameo right at the end. Not Ben Foster. But I'd love to do so. I tell you what, I would love to do some acting. I think I'd be very good at it. And I'd like to just do a little bit of acting in something. A cameo or something like that. Anyway, on that bombshell, we are very close to 1.9 million, as Andres says. That needs changing. It's on 899 anyway. We wanted to hit 1.9 million subscribers before the Fulham game so that we could go 1.9 million, road to 2 million for the season. But we're actually only 200 subscribers away from 1.9 million now. So we could start that mission early. Somebody said you could hit 2 million by Christmas. Well, that would be amazing. It's a little bit difficult to do that, but you never know with this community. But if we did hit 2 million subscribers by Christmas, it's 10 years of the United stand at Christmas. So it would be nice. But please do subscribe. Let's hit 1.9 million first. Don't forget to listen to the podcast, Goldbridge Saves Football. You might not have been listening to it last year. We're going into year 2 of that. Get part of the Ultras. Start listening to it. It's a general football podcast. I think you'll enjoy that. And big shout out to everyone who's been pre-ordering the book. Links in the description as well. We're back at 2 o'clock unless anything happens before. I'm on the 2 o'clock today because Beth's getting ready to go on the tour. So it's me at 2 o'clock today and 8 o'clock tonight unless anything happens in between. Take care, everyone. Have a great day or evening, whatever you're up to all around the world. Stay safe. I'll speak to you in a bit.